And there we go. A very good evening to everybody on the 14th of June 2022. This is Hackney Council's Licensing Subcommittee B meeting. My name is Gareth Sykes. I'm the Governance Officer for this meeting, and I will very briefly and as swiftly as I can go through the remote protocol for these meetings. So please bear with me for a few moments, please. Okay, the protocol for these Hackney Council remote meetings is as follows. Only speak when invited to by the chair. If you wish to speak, please raise your hand and direct all communications via the chair. Will everyone please ensure their mics are muted when they are not speaking, apart from the chair, who does not need to mute their mic at any stage. When speaking, please be succinct and do not exceed the allotted timeframes highlighted at the start of the hearing and contained with the agenda pack, which has been published on the Hackney Council website. If you're referring to a specific page or picture in a report, refer to that specific page or picture, please. If you're having any technical difficulties, please use the chat function in Google Meet, and hopefully Mario will be able to resolve any technical difficulties that should arise during the meeting. Hopefully they won't. Please do not use the chat function for any formal questions to the subcommittee. Any persistent disruptive behaviour will result in removal from the meeting. If there is more than one application, parties are advised that after each application is heard in turn, as set out in the agenda pack, the subcommittee will not retire after each application. So once the meeting is concluded, then the councillors, myself and the legal officer will discuss the decisions that were published after the meeting. Applicants and all other parties will be asked to leave the proceedings once the meeting is concluded. And as I alluded to earlier on, as we have two applications on the agenda for this evening, we've politely asked that all those who have joined us for item 7, for the duration of item 6, for those item 7, which I think, if I'm looking at my screen, refers to 3 people, possibly 4, if you could turn off your microphone and camera, but stay on the meeting, because it'd be very useful if you observe item 6. I hope that's clear. I will now finish speaking, and we'll begin with the formal agenda, which will begin with the election of a subcommittee chair for this meeting. Councillors, please, over to you. Councillors, we'd like to elect a chair, please.
Yeah, we need Councillor Vajana Thomas, you're on mute.
Yes.
Sorry about that. Yeah, can hear me. Can I nominate Councillor Smythe to chair tonight's meeting, please?
Yeah, thank you very much. That's great.
Thank you.
Welcome everyone to this licensing subcommittee meeting B, Tuesday the 14th of June 2022. Just before we begin, I'd just like to go round and make some introductions for all those who are on item 6. So I am the chair this evening. My name's Councillor Gilbert Smith, Stoke Newington Ward, and I'm currently the chair of licensing. Councillor Vajana Thomas, would you like to introduce yourself?
Good evening, all. I'm Councillor Susan Vajana Thomas. I'm sitting as one of the members tonight.
Thank you. David?
Hi, I'm David too. I'm team leader licensing technical support, making representations on behalf of the licensing authority.
Fantastic. Thank you for that, David. Can we have Suba next, please?
I'm Subashri, I'm an Principal Licensing Officer.
Thank you. And then you all know Gareth, because he's introduced himself already. And then we have Amanda.
Hello, good evening, everyone. I'm a solicitor from Legal Services supporting members this evening. Thank you.
Okay. And so all those people, other people on 6, item 6, which is for the Dream Factory, could you just say who you are briefly so I know where you're at on the screen?
Yes, I'm Graham.
So Graham, hi Graham.
Hi, I'm Charlie. I'm on the application as well, the premises supervisor.
Okay. Actually, you're not on my screen, so apologies if I don't see people, because I'm just working off an iPad. Anyone else out there I should know about? Is that Charlie, yeah? DPS. Anyone else for this one? Other persons?
We have various people on the screen in front of me, Chair, who are here as other persons.
Yeah. Is Corinne?
Yeah, I'm Corinne. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Anyone else?
My name's Louise Garrett. I'm a resident.
Okay. Thank you, Louise. Great. Just so I get an idea, because there's quite a few faces on here.
Kerry Ryan, Chair. Will the
Brilliant.
police?
Thank you, Kerry. Brilliant. And I've got Mike down there. Who's Mike?
Yes, I'm Mike. I'm here for item 7.
Oh, okay. Sorry, Mike.
Yep.
No problem. Do you want me to introduce myself now or wait till then?
Oh, you can just wait until item 7. Thanks.
Okay, great.
Chair, going by my screen, top right-hand corner, we have Sharon. Sharon is for item 6.
Okay, great. Thank you.
And then we have, I'm going to apologize if I pronounce this correctly, Claudia.
Yes, Claudia de la Mata. I'm a resident.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, so I had Claudia here. Stephen Carey was confirmed. Is he here? Is there yet?
Yes, sorry, sorry, I was on mute when I introduced myself 1 minute ago.
Okay, you're down as Saroy on the screen, by the way. And then Andrew Cantor was confirmed as well on my list. I don't know if Andrew's here.
I cannot see him on the screen, Chair.
Okay. All right. So there's a lot of people here. So just bear with me on this one as we go through. Okay. So the agenda is in your pack if you've got one or online. So just refer to that for all the different items that are going on. So agenda item 1 has been, we've done that already. That's the election of the chair. So item 2 is apologies for absence. So I don't think that we've got any apologies for absence today at the writing of this document.
That is correct, Chair.
Thank you. Item 3, declarations of interest. Any declarations of interest from members? No. Okay, great. Fantastic. Item 4 is minutes of the previous meeting. There's no minutes included in the pack for consideration, so we can skip straight past that one. And then item 5 is the licensing subcommittee hearing procedure, which I'll just run. I'll basically outline the hearing procedure as to what happens. So essentially, there's various steps in this procedure, steps 1 to 10. So step 1 is the appointment of chair and an introduction, which we've done. Step 2 is where the licensing officer will outline the report in regards to the case. Each one of these is 5 minutes. Step 4 is the chair will invite the relevant responsible authorities in attendance to highlight their reasons for objecting to the application as contained within the report. And then other persons at step 5 will come in and register their objections. Each of these is 5 minutes, by the way. Step 6 is a discussion where it's kind of an open floor type scenario. We have 15 minutes to kind of discuss stuff together. And then closing remarks from responsible authorities, other persons, applicants, and the licensing officer, just to see if they've got any final comments. Yes, Gareth?
I think, did you include in that list the applicant, Chair? I didn't hear the applicant is obviously has to state their case as well.
Step 3. Sorry, I missed step 3. That's after the licensing officer. Sorry about that.
Thank you, Chair.
And then step 8 is final clarification. Step 9 is consideration. At which point, just before that, all the participants will leave for this particular call. And then at the end of the whole meeting, we will deliberate and get back to you within 5 working days. Is that correct? 5 working days? Within 5 working days, you get a telephone call tomorrow and a written advice within 5 days. Is that right? Gareth, yeah?
That's affirmative from the legal officer, Chair.
Yes, that's correct. Yes. Yes.
Okay. Great. Okay, so we'll move swiftly on to step 2. So if the licensing officer, please, if you could outline the report, please, Suba.
Thank you, Chair. Licensing service of receipt of an application for a premises license under Section 17 of the Licensing Act 2003 for the Dream Factory, 44 Rivington Street, for the regulated entertainment and to authorize the supply of alcohol for consumption on and off the premises as stated within the report. The environmental production withdrew their objection based on agreed conditions 24 to 29 as set out in para 8.1 of the report. Representations remain from the police, licensing and other persons. The applicant has submitted additional information which has been circulated. I have nothing else to add. Thank you, Chair.
That's great. Thank you very much. So step 3 is the applicant to present your case, please, in support of your application, if that's okay. Just identify yourself so I know who it is.
Yes, I'm Graham Hussey, the founder of Dream Factory.
Oh, hi, Graham. Do you have a camera, Graham, so we can see you? Is that all right?
I do. My camera's actually, my camera's on.
Okay, that's fine. I can see you now.
Yeah, perfect. And this is Charlie Rawlings. He's the premises manager.
Okay, great. Okay, so you've got roughly five minutes or whatever to just put your case forward. Thank you.
Yeah, perfect. So a brief overview. Dream Factory is the only content creation house for startups. So to put that in really simple form, we help London small to medium businesses create video content, photography content, and audio content to help their businesses scale, which they wouldn't usually be able to afford. So it's a membership model, and founders of small to medium businesses pay us a yearly subscription. That's actually a hub for them to come and create content to help scale their businesses where they otherwise wouldn't be able to afford it. It's a community. So far we have 176, to be exact, startups in London who use our premises to create content to help scale their businesses. But Dream Factory goes a lot further than that. It's actually a community space where people meet and collaborate and help grow each other's businesses, because obviously Shoreditch before tech and before startups wasn't what it is today. And tech and startups and business has helped Shoreditch become the great place it is for people to work and live and meet each other. And we're applying for the alcohol license because obviously founders meet each other at Dream Factory. So for our business, it makes sense to be able to serve them drinks and help them deliberate over a few beers instead of going elsewhere. Because we're a new business that's less than a year old, and we obviously want to stay in business, and we want to thrive, and we want to help more founders of businesses grow and scale. So we figured an alcohol license would make total sense for us.
Yeah, just to follow on from that, so the hospitality branch of Dream Factory, which is Ground Floor Coffee, it's the same company, but a license for us enables us to have another string to the bow in terms of revenue, which post-COVID hospitality has taken a huge hit. So for us, that could be really, really, really helpful. And since November, we've run a series of temporary event notices. And during those, we've run a variety of events, network events, live music, talks, and since November, they have gone without a hitch. Obviously, there was an event in October that I believe a lot of the residents had, rightly had a problem with, and that was before I was hired to take over the management of the venue, and so.
That was my fault. He's trying to say, which it was.
So there's an apology there for that. But since that point, and since I've been employed to run the venue, we've had I think around 10 or 11 temporary event notices that have been good, and haven't had any objections to. As far as I think there may have been one objection, but that was actually to an unamplified acoustic music event that actually didn't require a license in regards to the music itself. So take from that what you will. But the in essence as well, we've made big steps in trying to ensure that the venue is well equipped for noise, for music, for alcohol sales. We've spent over £5,000 on bespoke acoustic equipment to basically deaden noise and to ensure that any noise that does leave the venue is significantly depreciated. We've also got a smart system in the ceiling that measures the decibel volume at all times, and that has an accessible dashboard for which people can actually see and monitor that. And that is something that we are prepared to share with local residents so that they can actually keep tabs on what the volume is, if that is a concern. I'd like to highlight that I don't think many venues, that's a serious commitment on our end to try and ensure that we can do all we can, because ultimately we're part of this community on Remington Street and Charlotte Road, and we want to be embedded in that. We don't want, we want to be working with people, and so we're more than receptive to the input from other people. And we took a lot of time considering every objection, and so we're glad to be able to hopefully address some of those concerns today. Graham's going to say a quick piece, if we've got time, just about the impact on local business in terms of Dream Factory and how we help.
Of course. Yeah, I know we're running out of time, but really quickly, we have 176 of London's fastest growing startups that come to Remington Street and we work with Chop Chop next door, which is the hair salon, and we work with creative agencies close by. We work with Bottega, the Italian restaurant, to send them tables and tables of business. We're really embedded in the community, and we're here to help. And I know for a fact through our members, people have taken office spaces. People have moved to Charlotte Road that are members of Dream Factory. We're definitely becoming a hub in this space, and it's only positive from our point of view. And our goal is to have 1,000 startups and help grow and scale those businesses. And Remington Street, Charlotte Road, Shoreditch, Hackney, and will be a home for that. And that's what we want to do. And that's our only intention. And I said to Charlie earlier today, I don't want to be the founder of a badly run cocktail bar in Shoreditch, or we don't want to be the new Cargo, which we said to the police. We want to get founders in to meet each other and help scale each other's businesses and keep Shoreditch the place that people know and love. And that's a place where business happens, basically.
How are we doing on time? Have I got any time to add to that, or?
You can have 1 minute, because I think you're a bit over, so you can have 1 minute. Thanks.
Oh, well, apologies for that. I just want to address kind of cumulative impact, because that's a really key part of this, in terms of, obviously this area has an issue with kind of drunkenness and drunken disorderly people. We're not going to be doing 10 Jaeger bombs for £3. It's going to be kind of a more of a high price point, primarily member based, small capacity. We're talking 30 people, 35 people seated, close by 11, and that we'll talk about that later on in terms of how we're going to perhaps scale back some of the times as well to fit with everything else. But I think that's me done.
Yeah, well, that's sounding good to me. Right, Councillor Virginia Thomas, do you have any points of clarification you'd like to make at this stage, or would you like to wait until the discussion?
Thanks. The only point of clarification that I would like to make is around the fact that the clarification is more of words that were used. You just said this premises, you had a few events, but one of the events the resident have problem with. And is it the resident having problem with the event, or the event has caused distress to the resident? So I found that a bit in terms of language. We as a council, we want Shoreditch to be a place where our residents have their peace of mind, where businesses are flourishing, where they can work together. But if you are saying you have an event that residents have problem with, that sounds to me as if you are saying to the resident, it's them that have the problem, it's not your event. But I would like you to clarify whether you think the event, the problem is with the resident rather than your event.
I can take that. As Charlie said, there's apologies to be made. That was totally our fault. And I say our, I mean mine, because the reason Charlie was hired is because at the time I was not capable of hosting an event. Clearly, the music was too loud. There was distress to residents. And a few weeks after that, Charlie was hired to make sure that never happens again, which we've shown with the temporary event notices. So totally our fault. It's not a resident issue. It was something that we caused distress pre-Charlie being hired. So once again, apologies to the neighbours. Totally, this isn't a case of us saying the neighbours are the issue, the neighbours are complaining. That was totally, and I've messaged a few of the neighbours on Instagram to say that was our fault and apologies, and that's why we made the decision to hire Charlie to make sure it never happens again. And which Charlie has proven with the temporary event notices that he can host many events with no distress to neighbours.
Okay, is that okay, Councillor Fajana Thomas? Does that answer your question? I mean, I've obviously got some questions, but I'm happy to take those through to the discussion phase. Okay, great. Let's move on then to the responsible authorities. David, do you want to come in before the police or vice versa? I'm happy either way.
It would normally be vice versa, Chair.
Okay, well, we'll have the police then next. Okay, Councillor, Kerry Ryan, thank you.
Good evening, everybody. Since the submission of this application and the police putting our representations in, we have actually had a meeting with the applicants at the venue, and we discussed several things in that meeting. Those being our expectation to see policies and procedures put in place because of where they're located, because they're in the Shoreditch Special Policy Area. We discussed a reduction in hours to at least core hours. I'm not sure if there's been any amendment to those to now.
Not yet.
Okay. We discussed removal of regulated entertainment and the removal of off sales of alcohol. We also spoke about alcohol only being sold at pre-booked events, but it was my understanding from that meeting that they would actually like to open the premises in the evenings as a bar, lounge where people can gather and drink. The applicant accepted all the police conditions as proposed in my representations, but having reviewed these, I do feel that further additional conditions would be required should the application be granted. We would still need to agree the number of smokers that would be outside. We would expect to see a written dispersal policy, a personal licence holder on the premises whenever alcohol is being sold. Maybe the introduction of a sound lobby. I know that they spoke about the acoustic works that they've done, but obviously with the door opening and closing regularly, then this could still disturb the residents. And the sound limiter could maybe be conditioned on a licence. But police concerns still remain that the building itself is not suitable for music and a bar. So another concern of ours is that Shoreditch also has a problem with knock sellers, and these are attracted by customers that are congregating outside licensed premises, and they prey on the vulnerable. And the sale of knocks does lead to more serious offences such as theft, robbery and sexual offences. So we'd just like to see something from the applicant as how they would ensure that their customers are kept safe outside. And although this is a back street that runs parallel to Curtin Road, this premises is on a junction which has licensed premises on each corner. And I know that the residents have been affected by these premises. I did mention to the applicant about reaching out to the residents and having a meeting to discuss what could be done. I don't know if that was done or not. But really, we need to hear from the applicant of how they're going to allay our concerns at this stage. Thank you, Chair.
Okay. Councillor Fajana Thomas, do you have any points of clarification you'd like to make just briefly?
Chair, let's hear from the response.
Okay, David, over to you.
Thank you, Chair. I'll keep this very brief because obviously quite a few people want to speak this evening. So my representation's in today's agenda, Appendix B3. I made that representation on the grounds of the prevention of public nuisance. This is an application which seeks a new premises licence within the Shoreditch SPA. This is an area which has been identified as suffering from the negative communicative impact as a result of the concentration of licensed premises in this area. It's noted in the application that the proposal describes the premises as a coffee shop and a cafe with evening events, which is my understanding of what the license is seeking to authorise. However, I do still have concerns, quite serious concerns about this application, which is the basis of my representation. Potential negative impacts as a result of the proposed additional activities, given the regulated entertainment and the alcohol sales which are seeking to be authorised. Now, it's of course for the applicant to demonstrate that their proposed activity will not add to the cumulative impact being experienced in the area. This is what makes an application within the SPA area different from applications outside. I did make a suggestion in my representation that the applicant may wish to make an additional submission. My understanding is that he has written to the local residents, but I've not had any information forthcoming. Obviously, PC Ryan has had conversations with the applicant, but I've not seen any additional submissions, as I say, other than the letter or email that is written to local residents, but no other information as to how the presumption, the SPA presumption, will be rebutted. So I'll leave it there for now, Chair. Thank you.
Okay. Great. Thank you for that, David. Let's see, where are we now? So I think we're on to other persons now, please. And you've got, 5 minutes each. There's quite a few of you, so obviously.
Shall I start? This is Louise
please.
Garrett. I'm a resident.
Hi, Louise.
I live within about 20 yards of the front door of the Dream Factory. I'm on Charlotte Road, which is the other side of the crossroads from Rivington Street. I have actually a bit of a legal question, which I might ask Amanda before I really get into my thing. You mentioned a company called Ground Floor Coffee, the applicant mentioned. Is it Ground Floor Coffee and Ground Floor Coffee's employees who will be giving out this alcohol, or are you actually employees of Dream Factory giving out this alcohol? I'm not clear on the relationship between those two companies. And that's a question for the applicant, really.
Okay, yeah. So Ground Floor Coffee is what we call Dream Factory's coffee shop. So the registered limited company is Dream Factory, so it's Dream Factory employees. Ground Floor Coffee is just what we call the coffee shop, but it's not a separate company.
It's not a separate company. Okay, thank you very much.
No worries.
Okay, I note that in your meeting with Kerry that she made reference to your desire to have a bar-like experience in the evening times, and you wanted to be open to the general public and not just your membership. So that will be problematic for local residents in the area. I'm going to talk briefly about cumulative impact, and I'm actually going to share my screen to give you a little bit of data, which I think is quite interesting for everybody to see. So let me just pick out a screen which is of use, this one.
Sorry, Garrett, Amanda, can she do that?
This is police data.
It doesn't matter. I'm just asking.
Is it being shared in advance of the?
I would defer to the legal. I would refer to the legal officer and her opinion.
Yeah, I don't know. Did she submit this as part of her representation?
I was talking about cumulative impact, and this proves the cumulative impact in the area.
Yes, I know.
It's publicly available data and has been for months.
Sorry,
months.
Louise, you're not listening to the legal representative. Please, can you listen to her?
We can't present any information that hasn't been submitted in advance of the meeting. I don't know if you got permission from anybody or asked about it, but we can't show this unless it's been submitted beforehand, so that people have an opportunity to comment on it.
Okay, sorry, that wasn't made clear to residents before this meeting. Usually, if we come physically to a meeting, we can present at that meeting. Yes, but no
residents have actually shared information like this in the meeting. I mean, you can.
This is a technical thing between doing this meeting online versus doing this meeting in chamber. because in
if
chamber we would be
if
able
you
to
did it in
present
chamber,
this.
you wouldn't be able to.
You won't be.
Okay, fine. All right, don't worry. I can talk it through without it.
Yes,
I've got lots
that's
to talk
absolutely
about,
fine. You can
believe
talk
me.
it through, but I don't think that you can present the information.
Okay, fine. All
Okay,
right, no
thank
problem
you,
at all.
Amanda.
Okay,
Remember, Louise, you've
so
got 5 minutes. 5 minutes, Louise.
yep, sure, no problem at all. Hoxton, Eastern Shoreditch is, as an area, is a metropolitan area. In our area, we suffer 2/3 more crime than the rest of London boroughs, and actually for the rest of Hackney Borough. We are 2/3 more likely to experience crime here. Violence and sexual offences, there are many of them. It is the principal problem in the area, and residents have a right to be able to return home without violence or sexual offences being threatened to them or experienced by them or witnessed by them. And many residents do witness all of these things happening in the area of Rivington Street and Charlotte Road. We are known as a bit of a black spot for this because we are on narrow streets. We have a known drugs problem. And it is a particular problem, particularly for young ladies in the area. To give you an example of this, a resident on the 6th of May experienced a situation where a gentleman was leaning against her front door. She was trying to leave the property. And she couldn't actually get out because the gentleman was so drunk that he couldn't even stand up. It took the bouncers from the Bricklayers Arms, who are immediately opposite to the Dream Factory, to actually come and retrieve their customer and allow this person to leave her home. This is the level of cumulative impact that we actually experience. And I should point out that door is less than 20 feet away from the front door of the Dream Factory. This evening I took a photo of the Dream Factory at 5:30 in the evening. It shows quite a large amount of drinkers gathered around the front door of the Dream Factory. The applicant will make the argument that these are not their drinkers, and they're quite right, they're not. They're the Bricklayers Arms drinkers. But their drinkers will further add to the drinkers in that street. There will be another reason for people to stand around on that corner. And at the moment, with the Bricklayers Arms, whose license has been in place for over 100 years, the general public can't actually walk on the pavement around that corner. We are pushed into the street. There is a walkway. It is clearly demarked by bollards outside of the property on both sides of the road. But the drinkers
Can you
gather
wind
in,
up now, Louise? Just
the
to finish
drinkers
off,
gather
please.
in that area, and they actually then prevent the people actually safely walking along the street. And yeah, basically, I think that this license is just going to make things significantly worse for the residents here. We already have a lot of problems, and the cumulative impact is just going to get worse.
Okay, thank you very much, Louise. Graham, do you want to come back very briefly?
Yes, just really quickly. I'm a Shoreditch resident 7 years. I live in 90-second walk from my company, Dream Factory. Shoreditch business.
We can't hear you. You're breaking up a bit.
An awful place to be. Probably 50 times worse than it is now. Sorry. Can you hear me okay now?
Yeah.
Yeah. Dream Factory, Shoreditch pre-startup tech and business, basically my business and what we do and what we curate. 15, 20 years ago, Shoreditch was a worse place than it is now. And all we're doing is bringing more good people to the area. The people at Dream Factory, there's 176 startups that are members of Dream Factory. 50% of them are women. So 50% of our base are female founders who come, create content, and want to hang around Dream Factory. They're not the type of people to be taking NOS or selling drugs or puking on the street. These are good business owners based in East London. So what we're doing is we're watering down the bad people in this area with good people, and I think that's a good thing. That's all I have to say.
Okay, thank you, Graham. Okay, let's move on now, please, to, I think, is it Corinne?
Sorry, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
So I really urge the committee to reject the application outright because it's in a special policy area. it was a shop, the premises were a shop for over 45 years. And the cumulative impact, as described by Louise, is a real issue there. And we do not need another bar. And I'm very, very alarmed by the intention of the applicant to have a bar atmosphere in the evening. And Shoreditch has the third highest crime statistics in the whole of London Met area. This is figures from the police ward, the local police ward where we went to a meeting with. No proper planning process has been undertaken to consider whether the premises are suitable for the proposed activities. And I just live across the Dream Factory on Charlotte Road, and I would be severely affected by noise and other nuisance from the premises. I acknowledge that the applicant wrote a letter to the objectors, and they apologized for an extremely noisy event which took place on the 31st of October 21, which created much nuisance. I mean, my windows were shaking and it was absolutely awful. But they forgot to mention there was another similar event on the 23rd of September 21, when residents also complained. So having had a first complaint in September, they nevertheless planned a second event with extremely loud music in October. They say that they've recently ran a series of temporary events notice, but these were basically very controlled, non-amplified music, and they were stopping quite early. And there was a very restricted number of people inside the premises. Nevertheless, due to the lack of soundproofing, clapping and cheers could be heard. Also, music could be heard when the door was open. Moreover, there is no ventilation in the premises. Groups of attendees periodically came out into the street with their drink, stationed themselves in front of the premises, and spoke, laughed, smoked, and drank quite noisily. It was the same after the event. For about an hour after the event, people would gather at the corner, coming out and making noise and smoking and finishing their drinks. So because it's a corner shop and it's all glass windows completely, I have observed that having events so visible to the public taking place in the shop in the evening with colored lights, music, trendy ambience, etc., that this is attracting other groups of people from the street. And even though they are told not to come in, they gather outside, watch, talk, and drink. The whole scene has a honeypot effect, which increases the amount of street crowd at this street corner. Thus, it completely amplifies the cumulative impact. And the pub across the road, the Bricklayers, is telling their patrons not to take drink out of the premises after 9 p.m. precisely to avoid any of that. So there hasn't been any planning process. And because it's a shop, it has no soundproofing, no sound lobby, no ventilation other than the front door. They state that the door will be kept closed during the event, but has air renewal been considered? The truth is that I have observed that during an event, the door is intermittently open. People do gather outside to breathe or smoke. On a cold day in October 21, when there was a large crowd inside, all the windows steamed up because there is no ventilation. It's near impossible to keep the door closed. So saying that the door will remain closed is not a proper mitigation of negative noise impact.
Okay, 1 minute, Corinne.
They suggest that late night live music would be played from the basement. So how many people can go in the basement in case of fire? Can they escape? How soundproof it is? All of that could be considered at planning application. The plans submitted are misleading. They only show the plans when it's a cafe. When there is an event, all the furniture is pushed back and there's a crowd of people standing or drinking and sometimes dancing with the music. So there's no designated smoking area, no disabled toilets, etc.
30 seconds.
Well, the others had a bit of an extension. The applicant had a bit of an extension. So I'm saying is the current premises are in class E, which is shop of planning class. But the applicant's description of their proposed activities imply which should be considered a live music venue with play, maybe a theater, a pub, or even a nightclub or a late night bar, which would be in a new class entitled sui generis. This would require planning application to be submitted to change from the class E to sui generis, precisely to mitigate the potential harms of the activities. And the applicant had ample opportunities to submit such an application.
Brilliant.
It hasn't been made to my knowledge. So I really urge the committee to reject the application. It's absolutely impossible to have another bar in this area.
Okay, thank you, Corinne. Graham, we're going to hold off to the discussion. Just keep that in your head. There's lots of questions that we can talk about in the discussion. So I think it's Graham next. Is it Graham? Graham? Is it?
Yeah. Do you mean me, Gilbert?
No, I think it's
No, a different Graham.
the label name Soraya. Who's that?
Oh, Steve.
Steve. Sorry, Steve.
Oh, listen. Okay, I wasn't going to talk, but I kind of. I think all the objections have been raised by the people there. I think the police did a very good summary of actually all the things that needed taken care of. So did Corinne, and so did Louise. I think from our perspective, I mean, the building's just completely inadequate for the purposes that have been proposed. And I think was there anything else that we wanted to write? I think
the antisocial behaviour as a result of the cumulative effect. I think the cumulative effect is a serious point, and we've only lived here for a short period of time, and we can see we live between Curtin Road and Charlotte Road, and the antisocial behaviour that is continually encouraged by alcohol all day long leads to people defecating on the doorstep every weekend. So the cumulative effect of this behaviour is actually the reason why the applicant and the application should be denied, in my view. I've heard nothing that tells me that there is an adequate understanding of the antisocial effects. So nothing that actually addresses the problems. I mean, business in the area is a totally separate point of view to living in the area. So that is probably the main point, is that it is a honeypot, as Corinne said, that continues to attract the wrong kind of person. Even if it starts off with the right kind of person, it certainly attracts the wrong kind of person by the end of the night.
I would raise also mental health issues from the noise that has been created by all these various entertainment venues in the area. Quite often it's the policing. I feel very, very sorry for Hackney licensing, and they're trying to police these venues, and it's a cumulative effect, and that it's virtually impossible to actually police to strict compliance with all the license conditions, and therefore, to a large extent, it's up to residents to complain, and these complaints therefore have to be registered at 2 o'clock in the morning or whatever it is, or 3 o'clock in the morning, which is again cumulative to sleep deprivation and mental health issues from living within the Shoreditch Triangle, which is, my wife says, the cumulative effect of that. So from that side of things, I would just very strongly encourage the council to actually reject the application. There are already so many other venues that sell alcohol. There's one immediately across the road for people just to walk out the door and go and enjoy the facilities over the road.
Okay, brilliant. Graham, maybe just note these down so we can talk about them later. I've got H with their hand up, and I've got Councillor for Jana Thomas with her hand up as well. H, are you trying to come in on this one?
That's you, Henry.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. Can you explain who you are? 'Cause I'm not.
Hi, my name is Henry Schofield. I'm a resident on Charlotte Road for over 10 years.
Oh, brilliant. Okay. Okay, off you go.
You did mention like a couple of questions about that your members are good people, which is fair enough, but you also wish to open it up to the public. So I feel like any argument which curtails to what your clientele would be like doesn't really bear any relevance into the argument. We mentioned before that you had a new employee, after which point there were very few complaints. We've already heard of one here, but I also want to bring to the attention of everyone here that there was another complaint made on the 18th of April 2022 with people drinking outside after 12 o'clock. The doors were open with no security. This also had some photographic evidence which was supplied to the council at that time. My other question relates to the very basis of your requiring a license or asking for a license to do with your business. You've explained to us that your business is to do with startups and startups which require some premises or facilities. Now, those facilities, there is nothing I imagine to do.
So why is he there?
Gilbert, I'm afraid you're not on mute, mate. Cheers. So I'm imagining the core of your business, as you've said, is a membership community based on providing facilities for people to make content. Now, it doesn't
Henry, can I
seem
just
like
stop you there 1 second, just for a second? Gareth, is Henry down to speak?
Chair, he is on the list of other persons.
Okay.
He is on the list.
Okay, fine.
He is
great.
on your list that you've received.
Okay, thank you for that. Yeah, okay, Henry, carry on. Sorry about that.
Right. So as I was saying, you know, the base of your business, as you described before, is to provide facilities for a membership, which is fair enough. And for startups, what I'd love to know is what is the proportion of actual businesses which are members and what are personal members out of those? I think it was 173 or 178 that you mentioned. And also, if primarily the objective of your business is to provide facilities for them, how does having a license relate to your core business, or why is it even necessary in the first place? My final question, sorry, Graham, just last one, is what kind of security have you had at previous events? It does seem from the police reports that your provision of security in the past and your planned provision of any security in the future doesn't seem up to what is legal, essentially.
Okay, great.
Well, the licensing issues which other residents have already brought up.
Yeah, thank you. Graham, hold on to those questions, write them down. Councillor Fajana Thomas, you've got your hand up. You want to come in?
Thanks, Chair. I'll wait.
Okay. I've got a whole list of other persons. Who else is on the call? Anyone, other persons that haven't spoken so far?
Chair, I have Claudia on my screen in front of me. She is down, listed as other persons.
Okay, fantastic.
I'm not sure if she wants to speak.
I'm sure she does if she's here.
Microphone.
You want to speak? Hello? Claudia, are you there? Claudia Della Mata. She was on the call earlier, I think.
Hi.
Yeah. Good.
Hi.
Oh, you're there.
Sorry,
Fantastic.
I'm on mute.
Would you like to hear you fine? Would you like to say something, Claudia?
Oh yes, of course.
Fantastic.
I really accept the apology, and thank you very much for the apology for the first event. But I have to say, I've personally had to send a few complaints to licensing department. The latest one is on the 18th of April with photographic evidence of people, a lot of people smoking and drinking outside after midnight. And I would like to know if the other guy, sorry, I don't know his name, but the event manager was hired at that time. How is that possible? You didn't have security. You had lots of people outside after a live music event. So I really don't understand what you're managing, really. So that was 2 months ago.
Is that all you want to say, Claudia?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, Amanda.
Just to the chair, I don't know if you want to just clarify with Claudia, what was the time of that event that she was referring to? That it was on.
That was at midnight, so people were coming out at midnight. Yes, and the evidence on the email on the 18th of April to licensing department where people were drinking and the door was open, and yeah, there was a live event. So I wonder how that was control, because it wasn't control if you were managing the event.
Okay, great.
Okay.
Anybody else from other persons that I've missed? Because I've got quite a few on the list, but not all are here.
Looking at
Chair, can I just ask one more question? Because this might help, because I'm conscious you're going through various local representations. Is that given that the application is going to be within core hours, you know, how do they feel? I mean, about that in terms of, do they feel that there's a likelihood that that might, you know, not affect them, or you know?
Yeah, we can bring that out in the discussion, which I sort of plan to do. So, anybody else from other persons, Gareth? There, do you know?
Chair, I believe you have spoken to now, and all the other persons relating to item 6 have spoken. I can
Brilliant.
see no other people relating to item 6, other persons on my screen.
Thank you. Councillor Fajana Thomas, is that a legacy hand, or do you want to come in at this point?
Thanks very much. I was waiting, as I said. Just a point of clarification. I checked the application. I'm aware the premises do have a temporary event notice on the 15th of April, but not on the 18th of April. So would that mean you were operating without a license on the 18th? That is my first question, because one of the residents, Claudia, just asked that question, if that event happened on the 18th. Chair, I've got quite a number of questions to ask.
Yep.
And I will start from the first one. I know the applicant repeatedly mentioned the fact that this is for the members supporting creative artists to produce content. So if that is the core or vision of these premises, and I'm wondering why they would need a license to sell alcohol. And if you're asking for license, I'm looking at the hours you're asking for. It's more than what you describe as members deliberating over a few beers. So would be good to clarify that. And the other thing that I want to ask is what exactly, I hope you are making note, what is the capacity of this building or of the premises? Chair, I will stop there. Or the last one that I want to ask actually is around in the application, you mentioned that the event are sporadic. And my question is, if the events are sporadic, then why do you need a license? Why can't you continue to apply for tents when needed, rather than having a license? Or I'll stop there, Chair.
Okay, so we're moving now into the kind of discussion phase. So remember, folks, that every question is going to come through the chair, please. So we're going to start off with Councillor Fajana Thomas's questions there, Graham, for you to come back on, specifically on the 18th of April. I'd like to hear the answer to that one, and the rest of them, and then we'll move through some of the other questions that may have come up previously. So we'll just give you a little bit of time to answer some of the queries you've heard, and to answer some of Councillor Fajana Thomas's questions as well. So off you go.
Of course. There was no event on the 18th at Dream Factory. So one of two things has happened, and we have CCTV in the premises, so we can provide that. So no event took place on the 18th. So either the resident has got the date wrong, or we work late. We're a startup. We're trying to build a business. The front door's open, and we're getting lumped in with bricklayers, people drinking. So it's one or the other, because we would never host an event without a temporary event and notice. On the other point about why would we have it open to the public, and why do we need an alcohol license? Nothing is the same without community. We know that, and it's not quite the same to say to somebody, sit there and have a tea or sit there and have a coffee until 6 o'clock. Relationships are built, or relationships can be built over drinks. And I think it's totally reasonable that if the music's off, everybody's out and everything's shut by 11 o'clock, I think that's totally reasonable. To the other gentleman's point, which was a really good question around why open it to the public. The reason that we don't have studios upstairs, or one of the reasons we don't have studios upstairs and we have a coffee shop, is because where we are in East London, every third or fourth person who walks by has a startup or knows someone that has a startup, and they come in for a coffee. It's basically business development for us. They come in for a coffee and they say, what's downstairs? What is the space? It's a content creation house for startups. It's part of our business development. We need to grow. We need to survive. I employ 10 people at Dream Factory. I want that to be 1,000 people. I want to support the local economy, and that's why we do it. I do feel like, and again, this isn't me coming from a different area of London. I live 90 seconds from Dream Factory. I understand how bad shortage can be. Let me put that on the record. I have to deal with, I leave my front door and I have to step over people, right? And it's not good. And I've seen people get sick, and I've seen all these things, and it's not good. And I know people are going to disagree with this because I already see head shaking, but we need more people like Dream Factory people. We need more people that are running businesses and scaling businesses, and it's not their mission to take illegal drugs. It's not their mission to drink until they get sick, right? And I feel like we're getting, which I understand why. First of all, I don't want this to be a weird thing with us in the residents, because I want it more than anything to give a hello. I know I see Corinne every day. She gives me a lovely hello, and I give her a lovely hello, and it's like, and I want to keep things like that, first of all. But it's not my goal to be lumped in with the cargos of this world and traffic and these horrible, excuse me to the business owners of those businesses, but those horrible places that create these problems. And I feel like we're being lumped in with them, but it's not my goal. I'm not the type of person who wants to have a place like that, and that's the honest truth. And we can't keep applying for 10s. We can't keep applying for 10s because there's only a finite amount of 10s. So, unless Charlie wants to add.
Yeah, I mean, there was obviously a lot to address there, and so apologies if missed things out. Please highlight them to us again, and we'll answer them if I forget. As far as I think with cumulative impact, we obviously don't want to add to that at all. However, I feel like some of those threads of logic basically mean that no premises can ever open in this area ever again. It seems very just unapologetically kind of, all right, that's it, that's game over. What is here now, that is it. And I don't think that is a fair policy to have, given that, Dream Factory's MO and the Bricklayer's MO, they're very, very, very different businesses. Yes, they may sell alcohol and they may be open late, but they're not the same, and they're not. I think to just say, okay, well, that's it, this is it, let's shut down now, I think that's too much. And that obviously, but I'm biased in this equation for sure, and I get it, but I feel like that's very heavy. It's a very heavy judgment to pass.
Okay, I'm going to bring in Corinne next, please. Corinne, please try and be brief.
Yes, sorry. The presumption of license application in the special policy area is that they should be refused. In terms of the, that's the first presumption, really. So this is what we should bear in mind. And also having more drinking at pubs. Once a premise has a license, it's forever. So you might be the nice, polite Dream Factory today, but who knows what's going to happen, in 5 months' time. So that has an effect on the cumulative impact in the area as well.
Thank you. Councillor Virginia Thomas.
Sorry, Chair, just in what the statement he made, I'm just wondering whether our solicitor Amanda can clarify that around presumption of application in SPA.
Yeah,
and the other, previously she's spoken about planning as well.
Yeah.
So it would be good if we can touch on that just to clarify what our position is on those two issues.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, basically there isn't a blanket ban that you automatically refuse every application that's made in the SPA. Each application is made on its own merits, and you have to take each case what they're presenting. The onus is on the applicant to demonstrate that they will not add to the cumulative impact. So, I mean, I think basically it's very important for the applicant to demonstrate what have they done to deal with that, how have they tried to resolve the issues raised by the local residents to overcome that that cumulative impact, and what ongoing things are they going to be doing to try and prevent any cumulative impact occurring and local residents being affected, because I think it's that they need to respond to that. I don't know if they, prior to today, if they did take any measures to try and reach out to local residents to try and resolve the issues, so that they could be reassured that there wasn't anything going to arise. So I think unfortunately the case is that each local resident, they're entitled to make their representation, but really it's for the members to, on the balance of probabilities, to balance both what the local residents are saying against what the representation is by the applicant as well. They can't take economic factors into consideration, so it's not a case of, you know, that they have to think about whether or not the applicant's going to benefit or not. It is solely, you know, what are they doing to prevent these things? It is a concern, obviously nuisance and things like that in the area, and antisocial behaviour. So they have to balance that against the policy, the licensing policy that we have, and it is each case on its own merit. So, you know, what's considered in one application won't necessarily be considered in another. So, you know, all we can do is members have to listen to all the representations made, then they make their decision at the end as to whether or not they're persuaded that, on balance, the premises will not add to the cumulative impact.
Okay, thank you, Amanda.
In relation to the planning issue, there isn't any representation from planning. Yeah, you can see in the pack it says no representations received. So basically, when there's no representation received, it's very difficult for the members to make any kind of judgment on planning issues, other than to advise the applicant to resolve any planning issues that may be in existence. We don't know that for a fact because nothing is actually on our report to say that we need to consider it. So the most you can do, if you under your powers, is to add an informative to say that the applicant needs to try and resolve any planning issues before they continue operating under the licensing regime. Yeah. Okay, I hope that covers everything.
Brilliant. David, sorry, David Stewart, did I see you put your hand up during that? No?
No.
Okay, great. Okay, so Graham, just hold off a second. Louise.
It was the applicant who put their hand up.
All right. Louise. Louise, are you there? You've got your hand up.
Sorry, yes, hello, hi.
You want to come in, yeah?
Yes, please. To Amanda's point about planning, I did actually contact planning before this meeting. They were unsure who had been contacted by licensing. I'm still waiting to get an answer back from them as to if that connection is actually working or not. So that was just a side note really on the connection between the two of them. On other things, if this applicant is saying that the bar is necessary for them to be a profitable business, I would question the wisdom of why they've rented a shop. This place doesn't have a license. It's never had a license in the last 60 years. And suddenly it's going to have a license, and that license will be there in perpetuity, whether the Dream Factory is there or whether somebody else takes it on. And the residents are quite rightly nervous about this because we've had quite a lot of incidents of bars being granted licenses, shops being converted into bars, and they are then sold on at a premium to unscrupulous operators. And we then find ourselves with problems spreading out even further. And this is why we're we're continually fighting to prevent yet more licenses, because we know the effect of this, and losing yet another shop into a bar is another resource that residents can't actually rely on anymore.
Okay, thank you, Louise. Councillor Virginia Thomas, I note your hands up again.
It's just want to, I know when earlier on when the police were presenting and when the local authority was presenting, there was a mention of resident engagement. Both did advise the applicant to engage with resident, and I just want to find out from them whether they've actually tried to engage with residents at all, and what is the outcome of that if they've done that. And there's this keep mentioning of door opening. If it's like there's no way the door can be opened, that noise from inside would not be getting out. If they can comment on, I know Corinne mentioned because of lack of ventilation that people need to come outside for fresh air. So what is the situation with, if we're mindful to grant this application, would the door opening continue? That's a question. And what are they doing about the soundproofing the premises, if anything is being done?
Thank you for that. So Graham, I'm going to bring Graham back in. I can see, is it Henry? And I can see Steve. So if you wouldn't mind just waiting for a couple of seconds, I want to bring back in Graham to answer some of the questions that have been raised there, and to address the sort of planning situation as well, please.
Yeah, so I'm just going to really quickly go ahead and then let Graham go. As far as communication with the residents is concerned, there was a message at the bottom of the response that said, identified who I was, said, please come and talk to me. You know where I am. I'd like to talk to you. I genuinely, please come and say hello, because we don't want to be fighting with anyone. And there was one person who responded to that, who said that the only problem that they had with the license was off sales, but otherwise they thought it would be room for a great venue. And I'll happily forward you that email as one of the residents who initially objected on the basis of off sales. Other than that, not a single person communicated with me at all. So yes, effort was made in that regard to contact objectors. With regards to planning, I think that's settled because there was no representation made. We can't surely be going on the basis of there wasn't whatever the line of communication was with the planning department. I think we can all agree that that is, if they've said there's no representations, then that we should take that at face value, because otherwise what we're doing here. As regards to ventilation and the doors are shut when there has been music on, with the maybe minimal exception of someone being let in or let out. Other than that, doors are shut the whole time when there's music on. As far as people going to get air and vent, that hasn't been an issue as far as the people who, our clientele, people who have been visiting. That hasn't been something that has been problematic for them. So I don't think that's a fair argument to say that there's a lack of ventilation. I don't think that's relevant here. But I'll pass on to Graham.
Yeah, there's a couple of more things to unpack, because obviously that was quite a lot, and I genuinely appreciate everyone being open and comes from an honest place. Someone said something about mental health earlier, and I just want to address straight away. I thought that was slightly disrespectful. We donate to 15 mental health charities. We work with them all the time. So I want to address that off the bat, that I wasn't happy with that comment. As regards, I think Louise said earlier about a drunken person next to Dream Factory lying against a door, which that person wouldn't have come from Dream Factory, obviously. And a bouncer from the bricklayers had to go and get that person. Well, I say it's lucky that bouncer from the bricklayers was there. And we're going to have security outside Dream Factory in the evening time. And isn't that a good thing to have a responsible licensed security personnel at our front door. I think that's a very, very good thing. As regards, we're, I think Louise's point, we're a very profitable business, but I don't know if anyone here owns businesses or partners own businesses. The business's objective is to make money, employ staff, and grow and scale. And if you see an opportunity to provide something that people want and it's feasible, I think you should provide it. So we're a very profitable business. We're growing, we're scaling. We've just got our 3rd site in Shoreditch in a very, very short space of time. So I think if there's something to be provided to the public that want it, I think we should provide it. But I do think having security outside and having an extra pair of eyes in Shoreditch, considering the violence and everything else that goes on that people are saying, having good people coming to Dream Factory, good business owners that are propping up the economy, and having security outside at all times is a good thing. I'll also say we spent thousands and thousands of pounds, and we can send receipts to deaden the noise inside with a company called Mumbly, MUMBLII.com. And we also got them to install a device that monitors decibel levels and sound 24/7. And I will say right now that I will give every single resident access to our dashboard to see the decibel levels at any time of day. I don't know of any other business locally that would go to those lengths and spend that money just to try and, be on the side of residents and prove that we're not there to make noise. We'll even give that to the council, give it to the police, whatever it might be. But that's where I'm coming from. So, but we're just trying to demonstrate that we're not trying to achieve anything other than provide drinks to members, provide drinks to the public who want to come into Dream Factory, and be shut and done by 11 o'clock and be a positive impact on the community, not a negative.
Okay, great. Thank you, Graham. Amanda, you want to come in briefly?
Just very briefly, Chair, through the Chair, would you like to ask the applicant then, these measures that they've taken, have they been approved by the noise team?
Do you hear that one, Graham? Have these measures been approved by the noise team?
No. We haven't had any communication with the noise team. No.
Okay, great. Yeah. I'm aware that we're getting thick into this, and it's good, but we normally give ourselves 15 minutes, and we're probably well over that. But I don't think we've kind of hit the bottom of things just yet. If everyone could just be patient. Suba, you want to come in briefly?
Yes, Chair. I just want to clarify. Conditions 21 to 23 are the conditions which has been agreed with the environmental protection team. It's within the report.
Yeah.
So that's why I just want to. That's why they didn't make any representation, because they have agreed conditions. I'm sure the applicant is aware of that.
Yeah, you're aware of that, Graham, aren't you? Environmental health stuff.
If you meant environmental protection, yeah, we have. Sorry, yeah, we have agreed conditions with them, communicated with them. I didn't know what you meant by noise team. Apologies. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, great. So I've got Henry, Claudia, Corrine, and Steve. So we'll start off with Henry, and then we'll go to Claudia, and then we'll go to Corrine, and then we'll go to Steve. Yeah, got it? So Henry.
Chair, Amanda want to come in.
Oh, sorry, Amanda, didn't see you.
Sorry, whilst we're going through, because I appreciate it's taking a while to go through to each person, is also to ask the local residents, Chair, whether or not the conditions that have been agreed with the environmental protection team reassures them in some way that the noise issues are being dealt with.
Yeah, so that's one aspect. I know you've got things that you also want to say, but also just to be considering the issue around the hours. How do you feel if the hours were reduced, basically, so we can get an impression of how you feel about that. So we'll start off with Henry.
Hi. Yeah, no, just to add my point of view on that from a resident's point of view. No, I wouldn't say, because it still adds up to the cumulative effect, and we've already touched on the density of the number of drinkers outside. Also the noise level issue. Yeah, it's all good to talk about an in theory premise of having better acoustics, etc. But what actually happens in venues, as with the bricklayers, who do try their best, is that the doors do open, and most of the time people spill out onto the street. Also, a large cause of noise within the area or around any bars is actually the closing time, which I think the police representative talked about before, about what kind of dispersal situation they were planning on, for which it doesn't sound like they have one. My actual questions revolved closer to what, sorry, Graham, I don't know, I can't remember, I think it's Ed, your colleague, mentioned when he was talking about, you know, is that it? As Amanda pointed out, the purposes of an SPA is for an area which already has a high density of bars. One question which we didn't answer there was whether you were aware or not of the licensing within the area prior to purchasing the property or to taking up the premises of it. It does seem like it wouldn't be a very good business venture, which seems to be the one thing we keep talking about is business. It wouldn't be a very good business venture to apply for a premises which required you to have a license as part of your core business structure in an area which didn't necessarily hand them out or have them ready, or in fact took a lot of persuading to do so. You do keep talking about how members are not the kind of people, but I have to reiterate the point I made before, which is, yes, your members might not be the kind of people to drink or to do drugs or whatever, and bringing them into the area might improve it. But again, this goes back to the core point of the license itself. If it was just to apply for members only, it would be a very different issue. But this license is proposed for the public. And finally, you mentioned that you're going to have security. Is it the case then that there hasn't been security at events, as has been documented before? That these events have been running without security prior to now? Thanks.
Okay, Graham, I want you to just hold off because I want to go through the rest. So Claudia, Henry, thanks for all those questions, but we have to realize the more questions we give Graham and his friend there, it's very hard for him to kind of keep track of all these different questions. So if you could keep your questions, you know, limited really, if you have questions, more sort of commenting really, and just us trying to get a sense of how you feel about it all. So Claudia, are you there?
She appears to have disappeared from my screen.
Okay, well let's go to Louise then. Louise, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. Hi, sorry.
Hi. Yeah,
Amanda.
We'll give you a minute for this.
Okay,
Yeah?
Amanda just asked if, as a resident, I've heard things here tonight that would have reassured me. The answer to that is still no. If it goes to core hours, I still wouldn't be reassured. The example of the events that they've already run under 10s has demonstrated that then everything they've said they actually are not going to follow. I think that they've really shown that quite clearly in the previous events that they've had, and in the responses that they've given this evening. So as a resident, no, I'm not reassured, and no, I wouldn't support further core hours.
Okay, thank you very much. Steve.
Just wanted to reinforce Hugh's point that in regards to no matter how good a sound system is or a sound monitoring system is, whether it's $1 million, if you're basically opening doors and you don't have a sound lock with double or triple glazing, it counts for nothing. The intermittent noise spilling out into the street, which is encouraged by smokers outside, will cause major problems. So I totally refute that any acoustic treatment will be worth anything unless, of course, you have got a properly designed airlock with double or triple glazing and then the associated treatments. And of course, that has not been done. If you can just hold on, please, Ed, because I've got another one for you. In that you talked about the need to create community and people and have chats over a beer and so forth. You've got probably one of the most popular pubs right outside your doorstep. As a matter of fact, I would argue it's probably closer to get to your pub than it is to get downstairs. So you've actually got the perfect solution to create community right on your doorstep by having a drink in the pub without having to basically have another line of alcohol sales and create another license, which will and potentially encourage other people into the area. So they're basically my two views are refuting basically. And I'd like to hear you talk about why you do need to have a license when you do have one of the best pubs literally at 5 meters away from you.
Okay, thank you, Steve. And finally, Corinne, if you just be quite brief, if you can, please.
Yes, so you've asked us whether we are reassured by what has been discussed. And no, I am not reassured. The issue of the cumulative impact is still very present in my mind. I'm still very alarmed by what is proposed in terms of people, honeypot attraction, cumulative impact in the street, and noise is not being properly addressed. Thank you.
Okay, great. Okay, Graham. I'm just going to go to Councillor Virginia Thomas just very briefly. I've got some questions myself I'd like to go through, but Councillor Virginia Thomas, do you have anything you want to say at this point?
Chair, I'll defer to you. I'll come back. Thanks.
Okay, brilliant. Okay, Graham. I'm just going to run through just a couple of things that I've sort of picked up, and I'm obviously the police have talked about. They've had discussions around some of the conditions, the added conditions around smoking, for example, the numbers and things like that. Dispersal policy. We would need to see a dispersal policy if it's not in there already. They'd like to see a personal license holder on the premises at all times. She talked about soundproofing, knocks. And I want to just mention the Hackney Nights portal as well, which you're probably aware of, which I'd encourage you to sign up to if you do get this through. But in terms of the SPA, the policy is to be strictly applied, and it should be noted that there should be a quality and track record of management, which I'd like you to speak to a little bit. Good character of the applicant, that kind of comes across as it is. And how the measures you will put in place to make sure that you're not adding to the problem. That needs to be black and white, really. And if you're willing to accept all these conditions that the police have raised, if you're willing to go down to core hours, because one of the conditions I think that the police have mentioned is no music or music that cannot be heard, and no drinking outside at all. No glasses, nothing outside, no drinking at all outside. So I just want to get a little idea of how you feel about some of these stricter style conditions, please. Thank you.
Of course. Would you like us to address the residents first? And then
if you can remember what
the point. I think it's Hugh or Huey, the local resident. Why talking about the business, and it's not a smart idea to start a business and then without an alcohol license, that's what we have to do. Amazon started selling books. Things change, things move, you need to adapt. I would say that first. The technology that we've invested in, yes, it doesn't stop sound, right? Hugh's loving that comment. Yes, it doesn't stop sound, but we can monitor the decibel levels and keep it below a certain level, whether that's 80 decibels, 70 decibels, 60 decibels. It's not there to stop sound leaking. It's there for us to monitor it and make sure that the music isn't loud so the residents can't hear it. I will say that. My question to Stephen, which was a good question, why not go across to the bricklayers?
That's correct, but I was just you said there.
Sorry, Steve.
When you open and close the doors, you can't, of course, stop the music from leaking out. So just refuting your.
Sorry, Steve. Can I just finish that point? The question about why I love the bricklayers, by the way. It's a great pub and an absolute staple of East London, and we know the owners and the managers and the door people, and they're amazing people. Why not just go over there is a good question. But we have ground floor coffee. If we had this conversation 2 months ago, would you not say, why not just go to Fix Coffee? Why not go to Bottega and get?
Can I say coffee doesn't cause the?
Steve, you have to go through the chair. Sorry.
Yeah. But I would come
through the chair.
Yeah.
Go on,
why not just go next door and get a coffee instead of you selling coffee? Why not just go, record a podcast in the podcast space next door instead of recording in a row? We have to be a profitable business, right? And wherever we can do that, we do. So that's what I would say. I think Charlie has a few points.
Yeah, just in respect to the installations that we've got with the acoustics, Steve will happily send you the bespoke science. It's really super kind of cool tech actually, but we'll happily send you all of the information on how that operates and how that works. That is something happily share with you because it's not just for show. It works. So I'm happy to share that.
I'll be very encouraged to find something that defies physics, so that'd be great. Thank you.
Okay, so the other points that I raised, Graham, if you would just sort of talk about those. The other thing I'd like to say, basically, you have put down as your general description, coffee shop, cafe that will be open for evening events, serving alcohol for consumption. you know, you're a creative space, you're a studio space, you're helping, you know, youngsters and startups to make films and podcasts and all that kind of stuff. That's the core of your business. You know, I'm kind of, you know, I can maybe speak for Councillor Fajana Thomas as well, and the residents. You know, we're worried that this is going to become more of a bar type place than kind of your core business, if you like, which is the creative stuff. You know, so yes, just talk about the police, talk about the conditions that you've spoken about with them, talk about the strict conditions that they've mentioned about no alcohol outside, and obviously core hours. You know, we'd like to get your sort of feelings around that, please. Thanks.
Of course, of course. Well, when we met with the police, who were lovely, by the way, they were really brilliant, really, really helpful. We immediately said we will do core hours if that makes people feel better. We said we'd have no alcohol outside. If that makes people feel better, that's fine by us. We're not here arguing the point that we want to be open till 2:30 a.m. We're conceding and coming back, but I do get the feeling that if we turn Dream Factory into, you know, a no music venue and headphones like a silent disco, there'd still be complaints, right? So I think we're trying to edge towards and meet somewhere where everyone's happy, but there seems to be resistance. As far as dispersal, that's what the security person who'll be employed by Dream Factory will be there to disperse. We don't want people hanging around outside. That's not what we want.
Yeah, but sorry, you need to design a dispersal policy. Essentially, you need to have a policy in place.
Yeah, the policy is that obviously everybody is out by 11, and people are told to move on, and the bar is closed from 10:30.
Yeah, I mean, you can get licensing experts to kind of help you with all that stuff. Yeah, Amanda.
Yes, but the thing is, they have to the chair. Jay, have you asked them whether or not they would agree to a dispersal condition, and also to address the issue about open windows and doors, which is resulting in the music, you know, blaring out and affecting local residents?
Yeah, a number of smokers and stuff like that would need to be decided too. So did you hear that, Graham?
Yes, I'll let Charlie take.
Sorry, I got a little bit lost in that one. We've already, you know, we've said that we will not be doing any amplified music. Although I will add, through a temporary event notice, we actually do have one booked for the 1st of July, just to give people a heads up. But again, that will operate with the doorman. Music will be off by 10:30. Everyone will be gone by 11. You know, sort of on a Friday. Amanda, can you just repeat?
Yes, we need a dispersal condition, which has to be approved by the licensing authority. Mm-hmm. So then that would give some assurances as to how you'd be dispersing from your premises. So that's a joint working project between you and the responsible authorities. Okay, so I think that would be something that is needed. That's what the chair is saying.
No problem. We will definitely work on that. We're totally up. As I say, we're moving towards trying to make people happy with this. So we're
keeping windows and doors closed.
Yes, of course. We keep windows and doors closed, but also the decibel, the technology in this decibel system is to be at a low level that you know, it's not going to be a rave that there's music spilling out in the street. If we keep the decibel levels lower than the bricklayers, for instance, then it shouldn't be a problem if someone has to dip out and leave the premises and the door has to open.
Okay, Councillor Fajana Thomas, please.
Thanks, Chair. I just need to clarify if we are mindful to approve this application. Am I hearing from the applicants that they are happy? They're saying no to off sales, as well as agreeing that the operating hours will be the core hours of operating within LP3. Is that what I'm hearing, Amanda? Or
I think that they are saying that they're happy to go with core hours, but I'm not sure if that's firm or balancing it against the concerns raised by local residents still. Then,
but that's something that we will discuss obviously after the meeting.
Okay.
Okay. I've got Henry very briefly, and Louise, you've spoken quite a lot, but just come in very briefly. So Henry first, and then very quickly Louise.
Yeah, really sorry. Graham, just coming back, I think because there was a bit of a pause between the questions and your opportunity to answer. My two other questions were, mentioned that the members are not the kind of people to drink too much or do drugs or cause any issues in the area, yet the proposed license is for the public. And why couldn't it just be members only if it did need to exist at all? And then the other one was, you mentioned that you were going to have security. And does that mean that there hasn't been security at previous events as was documented? Thanks.
Yes. Okay. To answer your question, the same principle applies to the coffee shop to us as it does with the alcohol license. We've got 30, 40 members that have joined Dream Factory, paid an annual subscription, that have come in to experience the coffee shop, grab a coffee, have a meeting, and then realize what type of business we are. We would like to continue that through. And have members of the public come in and see what we do and see what we're all about and join Dream Factory. That's why it's not just members only. And then the next question, sorry.
So there was the security question. And the answer to that is for events that have been open for public sale, like tickets, we have had SIA licensed doorman. The occasions where it may have appeared that that person wasn't there was because of running an event with a company called So Far Sounds, who it's completely private, ticketed, and they basically run the door. They see tickets on the way in, and that the guy stands basically on the inside, doing it from there. So you may not have seen that individual, but they have been there.
So there was an SPA licensed person at those events. Is that the position on that one? Yeah. Right.
Okay, Louise, do you want to come in very briefly because you've yep, Louise.
Yeah, hi.
Yeah,
hello.
Yeah, just come in and make your point briefly. Thanks.
My point very briefly is this is a shop.
Okay.
It's as simple as that. It's a shop. It's not a bar.
Great. Thank you very much. Okay, look, I think if we're all in agreement that we've had a very good discussion around a lot of this. We haven't really spoken about smoking numbers and things like that, but we will get an opportunity for the police and the licensing authority to sort of come back and just, sort of tell us what they think.
Smoking's been
the police have actually outlined some numbers of smokers on their conditions.
Oh, have they?
It's to 5. I think it's 5, Chair.
Oh, is it? Yeah, I didn't see that. Page 53 is that? I can't see a figure on there.
5 beyond.
Is that correct, Sue? But the police have set out.
Yeah, it's condition 22.
Yeah.
Oh, page 22.
Sorry,
Okay,
condition
right.
22.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you.
So
Okay, so look, I think we should move to step 7 now, if everyone's in agreement, which is basically closing remarks. So this is where I will ask responsible authorities, other persons, applicants, and the licensing officer if they have any final comments to make. So if we could please, let's go with the police first. Kerry, I'd like to find out how you feel about what you've heard from everybody. And how is it reassuring for you as a member of the police team? All the things that you've heard in regards to what mitigation measures they would put in place, to tackle CIA. Can't hear you.
Reassuring in the sense that they're agreeing to come back to core hours, but it's very difficult without having seen a written dispersal policy or having, the sound is obviously a big problem. I know they've done acoustic work, but I think the fact that they've just got a door that's going to open and close is not going to reassure the residents, I don't think, that the sound is not going to escape. I think that not enough has been demonstrated today to allay all police concerns.
Okay, thank you for that. Just hold off, Graham. David, would you like to come in here, please, with your closing remarks and how you feel about things?
Yes, Chair, thank you. Obviously, the applicants made some investment into this site, but I just feel that all we've heard really are fairly standard measures that we'd expect from premises, pretty much from this type of operation, anywhere in Hackney really. We're talking about security, noise limiters, dispersal policy. It's a public. The intention is to run this with access to the public. The applicants talked about the clientele being a nice clientele, but ultimately this is in their Shoreditch SPA, so that the standard there in that area is higher because of all the issues that we're very much aware of, and that we've heard about. And I don't feel as if, for me personally, I've not heard enough that suggests to me that this is any different from anywhere else in the borough. So yeah, that's just my view at this moment.
Okay, thank you very much. And just with other persons, you very briefly come in, like literally for 10 seconds. But first of all, Councillor Fajana Thomas would like to say something.
It's in response to David, just to find out from him what sort of things would he have liked to hear in this discussion or commitment from the applicant that can reassure or him.
Yeah, it's not something specific, because the minute we say something specific, then everyone just agrees to that, and every application we get after that, everyone has that in their application. I think what has to be understood is that where it's an application within a special policy area, it's for the applicant to demonstrate and I feel they should understand, or they should demonstrate that they've understood what the issues are, and then address those in their application. I just don't feel that's been done, other than fairly standard measures that we would expect from premises which intend to operate in this way, to basically operate as a drinking establishment.
Okay, Graham, I'm going to hold you off there for a second. I just want to bring in the other persons very briefly, like 10 seconds each. So we'll start off with Steve. Steve?
I've got nothing else to contribute. I think it's been summarised fairly well by all the other people.
Brilliant, thank you very much. Louise, 10 seconds.
I'm not reassured that this shop should be converted into a bar at all.
Brilliant, thank you. Corinne?
I concur with Louise and with the summary so far. I'm not reassured.
Thank you. And H, Henry or Hugh?
I'll take either. No, I'm not convinced in any way, I'm afraid.
Okay, and then finally Claudia. Claudia, are you there?
I don't believe she's on the call, Chair, so we can move on.
Okay. Councillor Fajana Thomas, do you have any other points of clarification that you'd like to make before we close it off?
No, Chair, but I think the applicant want to come back, probably in regards to the last questions.
Yeah. Okay, Graham, you get the final word.
Yeah, thank you. Firstly, thanks for everyone's time. It's obviously it's a dense process. Just really quickly, the councillor asked David for a single specific thing, and it seems strange to me that there wasn't a single specific thing, but that is what it is. In regards to Kerry and the police, we sat down with Kerry. I'm really disappointed actually, because we sat down with Kerry and one of her fellow officers, Neil, and basically had a really good conversation. And the way it was left was that, yeah, if you agree to these terms, which we agreed to, then the police no longer had an objection to it. So I was disappointed and surprised to hear that from Kerry today, because it's very different to the conversation that we had. But again, that is what it is. But I just wanted to make that clear.
Thank you. I mean, I would, my advice would be to get a licensing professional on board, really, to help you with your application. To deal with the dispersal policy issues, to deal with all these other technical points, to have these policies there in the document at the time. I think this has given you a good feel for sort of, what the community feel, what the licensing authorities are all about. you know, so that would be where I'm coming from. Amanda, would you like to come in with anything further before we?
No, Chair. I mean, the main thing, Chair, is that both members need to be satisfied that they've heard everything, so that they can make a decision, and that you don't have any further outstanding questions about whether or not they have met the criteria for special policy area, and whether or not they've done everything to demonstrate that they will not add to the cumulative impact.
Yeah, Susan.
Sorry, Chair, just want to confirm in terms, I know we mentioned the policies around dispersal policies, and not quite, I can't remember what the applicant said. Are they're willing to have or have a dispersal policy?
Yes, they did say earlier that they're prepared to have a dispersal policy.
To have
Yes, they
that
will.
will be approved by the licensing authority.
Yeah, they
I
said
just
that,
want
yeah.
to confirm that.
Yes, they did.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I think we could. There's no further business for consideration under this particular item. So, if I could ask all participants to log out that were relevant to item 6, that would be great. And thank you very much for everyone's time.
Thank you, Gilbert.
We will go away and
Thank you very much, Gilbert.
And carefully deliberate all this.
Thank you.
So thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you, everybody, relating to item 6. So, for the benefit of the remaining people in the meeting, and also everybody who's watching via YouTube, so we're on to item 7 now. So, in terms of my list of speakers or external attendees as such, we should have Izzy, Mike. The police have withdrawn. Was that correct? Just to clarify, I think the police have withdrawn.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure about environmental protection from the council. They were sent the invite, but they're not on my screen.
I think their issue was smoking, I believe.
Right. Okay. But it looks like, according to my list here, that we've got everybody who should be here, barring environmental protection.
Yeah. Okay. So Izzy and Mike, and Laurie, you kind of know who we all are. Because we've introduced ourselves, but could you lot introduce yourselves, please? So let's start off with Izzy.
Hi, my name is Isabella, or Izzy, and I am the lead curator and event organizer at Open House Hackney.
Great. And Mike?
Yeah, my name is Mike, owner and I guess founder of Open House.
Yeah, you're Mike the third, yeah?
I am. My father
the third
and grandfather also have the same name.
Thank you. And then Laurie, please, finally. Can't hear you. Can't hear you. You're still on mute.
Yeah.
Hello. Sorry, in all that waiting, I didn't work out how to use mute yet. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, right. Now I know how to unmute. Hi, I'm Laurie. I'm a local resident.
Oh, brilliant. Okay. Okay, so let's go back to step 2 for this one. And that's where the licensing officer will outline the report. Thank you, Suba.
Thank you, Chair. Licensing service are receipt of an application for a premises license under Section 17 of the Licensing Act 2003 for Open House Hackney 5 Prince Edward Road for regulated entertainment and to authorize the supply of alcohol for consumption on the premises as stated within the report. The police have withdrawn their objection based on agreed condition, and this information has been circulated. The participants remains from Environment Commission and one other person. I have nothing else to add. Thank you, Chair.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Suba, for that. And if we could have...
Chair, apologies, Chair, for interjecting. I noticed that Andrew, if I pronounced it correctly, Cantor has just joined us. Andrew, I've got you down for the Dream Factory, item 6. That item is now finished, Andrew. So
all right, thank you very much. Sorry.
We're now into item 7. Thank you very much, Andrew.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay.
Well spotted, Gareth. Okay, so if we could move on to the applicant's case. So if the applicant can now present their case in support of your application. Thank you. Who's going to do that? Is it Mike or Izzy?
Yeah, I'll do it.
Okay, great. Off you go. 5 minutes.
Great. Yeah, thanks, Gilbert. I put together a slide deck for this, but I guess I'm not supposed to share that, so I will just speak to it. Hopefully, this can get done a bit quicker than the last one. It should be pretty straightforward, I think. Yeah. So I just about Open House. So we opened September of last year, and our mission is we're a home for creativity, connection, and renewal, a playful, enterprising space that unites multiple art forms, art exhibitions, music studios, film and
Laurie,
collage
can you turn your
shoots,
mic off, please? Sorry, Mike.
Sorry.
Thank you.
classes and workshops. And we are excited to grow our community and are always open to good ideas. We're applying for, why are we applying for a premises license? We offer our space to local creatives and teachers for a higher price that is well below cost. We are losing a lot of money right now, and this is something I'm okay with funding this to a certain extent. I want this to be a community event. I am able to fund a little bit of this, but I can't fund it at the prices that local artists can use and can give them a chance to maybe have a first art exhibition, something like that, unless there's a way to supplement that income. And so what we want to do is continue to offer these low, below cost rates and recover some of the expenses by selling drinks at these occasional events, such as an art show, opening night, a workshop or class, panel discussion, etc. So just using the sale of those drinks to allow us to offer the space for next to nothing really, or even for free to local charities, local artists, local teachers, etc. So details of events and activities. All of our events will have music off by 10 p.m. if they have any music, and everyone will be out by 11 p.m. Alcohol will only be served at events. So it won't just be open to the public. It won't be a bar or anything like that. Alcohol will be served as part of an existing event. Events will focus on education and learning, and we'll probably, we're expecting to have one event or less per week where alcohol is served. So moving on, we just talked about how the police have withdrawn their representation. We're all in agreement there. That's great. And then, really the other things I just wanted to bring up, it wasn't mentioned by just earlier, but I know there were two quick things with the police where one was about, two events that we were going to have that they think originally the police thought we needed a license for them, but it turns out we didn't. We went back and forth with Carrie on this. Izzy spoke with the police directly, and we found out that we actually were fine to host the events without a 10 or event license because it was less than 500 people for a theater performance, and the theater performance finished before 11 p.m. And as long as we met that criteria, we didn't need an event license. So I know that somewhere those were listed by the police, and so I just want to make sure we address those. We didn't actually need a temporary event notice, and we had confirmed that with the police before those events were run. Both were just small, a few dozen people watching an event that ended before 11 p.m. So that is, I think, what I have to say. I think hopefully that was less than 5 minutes.
Yeah, it was. It was exactly 3 minutes 20. Izzy, do you want to come in and say something very briefly for last minute or something, maybe?
Sure. So I can cover what Mike was saying about the venue being focused around creative events and also education. So drinking will never be the primary purpose ever. And we decided as a venue to end all music by 10 p.m. for all events, which was a new decision that we did in the new year. Prior to that, we had a couple of complaints. I'm sure some people on the call will voice their thoughts on this. But that was before we decided to curb the event timings, because we realized it made a huge difference, not only in terms of the actual timings of the events themselves, but also we noticed that if people stay beyond 7 p.m., then they tend to be louder, they tend to gather in groups, and that's what was causing the disturbance. And so we just decided that that wasn't good for us as a venue, it wasn't good for the community. And so we've now got a hard and fast rule that it's 10. In some cases, we allow it to go to 10:30, but it's always the kind of bar is 10 p.m. for music. So I wanted to say that and clarify that.
10 seconds.
I think that's it for me.
Thank you very much, Izzy. That's great. Okay, so the next we move on to the next step, and that would be it would normally be the environmental health people, but they're not here, I believe. Is that correct, Gareth?
That is correct, Chair. They were sent the invitation. I've had nothing in my inbox. I did double check. I've got the guest list in front of me. They have not confirmed for this evening.
Okay, Amanda.
Can we ask the licensing officer, Suba, whether or not she's had any contact from them or anything?
No, Chair, we didn't receive any contact from them.
Okay, great. I mean, we have representation at Appendix B1, so we sort of know what they're talking about. We can talk about that in the discussion phase. Laurie, you next, please. 5 minutes.
Hello. Hello, everybody. So I'm a local resident, and partly, I'd first like to say I'm not here to try and stop people's businesses working. So hopefully this is, you know, I realize things are a discussion. So a lot of the complaints I would have are so that things are logged on the permanent record, so to speak, and things are made sure that they go through things completely. There was a response from the team, which I presume is kind of in the record somewhere, because if it was sent to me via Senita or someone, so or
when you say the team, Laurie, do you mean the licensing team?
No, sorry, these guys, the open house guys. So I was just saying. So I was saying there has been there. I'll come back to that, but I'll first say some things that I think it's worth emphasizing, as in emphasizing ongoing concerns, and also I'd say that there are, because it's an area that's dense in population, so there are kind of other neighbors that I know I've spoken to who also have concerns along similar issues. Partly also I live in a house of 5 people, so there's sort of, I'm partly representing those guys as well, but there are a number of properties along the thing, and then yeah, it's mainly the sort of the worry, because we sort of being on when they moved into the area, and I was under the impression it was going to be an arts based space, then that's kind of all cool, but seeing the application, one was worried by whether it was more of a bar type thing. Now they've made representations on that, and also in the thing it's sort of, they clarify, so we can come back to that, but soundproofing is the sort of main worry for me, because I work in a live music venue, so I'm familiar with these things, and say stuff in my communications. I've said about the fire door not being a suitable access point, and also a problem for sound pollution, stuff like it's kind of environmental health can give opinions on this, but I can give personal opinions based on, I know that the venue I work at, we have a humongous piece of foam on the back of that fire door to soak up noise coming out of that, and it's not used as an ingress point, because similar to my arguing in this situation, it's not a suitable access point, because noisy fire escapes are kind of irritating places to enter and exit a venue for very nearby properties, and soundproofing. And also similar to the previous people in the other case, I'll just bring them up as an example. It's also a fear that one wants to put forward checks on an application for a license, because of the fact it has an ongoing impact upon that change in the thing. So it's sort of settling out the thing. My complaints that were initially about sound and stuff. Oh, so rather than listing all my initial
2 minutes.
complaints, yep, 2 minutes. Don't worry, I'm timing myself. So their responses were: A, we will reduce the number of late bookings, which says here to closing by 11, and then you were talking about sound off by 10 today. B, only serving drinks in conjunction with events, and not having the bar open to the general public every day of the week. So that's, again, eluding fears that you're not opening an ongoing bar venue. It's more for the arts events and stuff. C, not permitting the fire exit to be opened by guests and used as a smoking area or entrance during events. And D, having a maximum number of 4 people outside smoking at one time. So all of these things would be things that I'd be positive about. The only thing I feel is missing off that is addressing, if you want live music in the venue, sufficiently considered soundproofing and considerately knowledge of decibel levels, etc., etc. Because again, these things you don't know who's opening a thing, and if you're going to run a live music venue, because I've also sort of experienced bands and stuff, I know that you need to be very familiar with how these things work, how you create noise pollution. Because one other issue apart from the fire door is that the venue space has the glass fronted windows on the front side, and that creates an issue for how you soundproof there. So that's something I would raise as a personal concern, that if it is going to be for live music, you would have to consider that. So, and obviously there are different types of live music. Acoustic is one thing, thrash metal band, totally different tactic. So you wouldn't necessarily need soundproofing for acoustic events, but for thrash metal or sort of more you can see things. So those are my concerns, and I was sort of wanted to say I have this communication from them.
2 seconds.
And I'm sure, yeah, but this is just I'm out of time, but I'm just saying this message that I'm referring to, that should be in the record. So I'm just flagging up, like, because it was sent to me via whoever organized this organization. So I'm just making everybody aware that should be somewhere. But I'm not going to stop talking now.
That's great. Thank you very much for that, Laurie. Councillor Virginia Thomas, would you like to clarify some points? I think we can just move straight into the discussion phase, actually. So far away.
Oh, thanks very much. It's point of clarification and in terms of conditions. And the first thing that I want to clarify is the applicant saying all music or event will end at 10 p.m. Is that what I heard?
Yes.
Okay, so with me, that I'm thinking of the condition. Then want to clarify, do you have a designated smoking area in the premises or within or outside the premises at all?
Yes, outside. Oh, sorry. Do you want me to answer now or wait?
Just hold these questions
and the
in your head
last
and then answer
one, the soundproofing would be good to have to have your comment where you are, because your application is asking not just for the art exhibition, is going to include play and live music, and if that will happen, then the premises, the expectation would be need to be soundproof. So we need to hear that. And the last one, I'm not too sure if it's someone that will answer this. There is the condition around SIA, that the SIA will be employed based on assessment. I don't know. I would be thinking that any event that we're going to have like more than 20 or so people in that premises need to have an SIA or alternative. So why is that, Subhanan? Thanks very much.
Amanda, do you want
yes,
to come in very briefly?
Councillor Virginia Thomas, I just want to refer you to the police conditions that were proposed. They do include SIA condition, and it has a condition for smokers as well to be outside up to 5, I think, outside.
Yeah.
So most of the points I think that you raised there just now were actually in the conditions from the police. Is that what you meant, or?
Yeah, okay, that is what I want to clarify.
Yeah.
But in terms of smoking,
with the police, yes,
I saw that with but what I'm asking is whether they've got the designated smoking area, or people just pop outside by the side door, as one of the objectors said, to just smoke in there.
It says no more than 5 persons out 5 persons to be smokers outside of the premises. It doesn't say that there's a designated smoking area. So
yeah, well, we can cover that off. I mean, I think Laurie was concerned about the fire door being an exit for smokers and stuff. So maybe Mike or Izzy, you want to come back on that? Off you go. We're in a discussion. So
Thanks,
Mike,
Chair. That's why I asked that question. If people are using the exit door space as smoking area.
Yeah. Okay. Whoever wants to come back on that one.
Cool. Yeah, I could do that. So thanks everyone. So first off, yes, just so you know, Lori, that email is in the big docket. I think it's page 110, if I look correctly, of the public pack agenda document for licensing subcommittee.
I've seen that email. I've seen
Cool.
the what you were talking about, but that doesn't clarify it to me. That's why I'm asking you.
Yeah, thanks, Susan. I was talking I was answering Lori's question first. I'm sorry, and then I was going to answer yours, Susan. You're exactly right. That does not answer your question. So sorry about that. So Susan, Counselor Thomas. I'm sorry if I'm using the wrong phrasing.
Virginia Thomas.
Virginia Thomas. Yeah, thank you. The answer around smoking is the fire escape will not be used for smoking. That is not considered a smoking area. We've put in the in that email, I believe that Lori's our response to Lori that we won't use that fire escape as an entrance or exit, and won't be a space for smoking. Smoking will be out front. There's a pavement out front, and that would be the area where, according to the police, we'd have no more than 5 people.
Right.
Was there another question there that hadn't been answered yet, or were the rest of them answered by the police agreement that we've had?
I think according to Amanda, a lot of them were talked about in the conditions, and particularly condition 14 in regards to the security people, SIAs. So there is a condition in there that you've already agreed to. Laurie, anything else you want to bring in?
Sorry, unmuting skill. Yeah, sorry, I don't have access to the long document, I think. So the only thing I'd say is like a concern on the soundproofing is still, so if without environmental health team being here and without me seeing what they have said about it, all I can go off is my own sort of emphasized opinion is I have concerns about the current level of soundproofing on the building not being sort of quite up to scratch to very loud events. I don't know if environmental health have made representations on that, or any changes have been agreed, or sort of, or is there, if there is a statement of intent to we are going to do this, this, and this, or whether within the licensing application there is a clause saying if it is discovered that this is now creating ridiculous levels of sound, this will be dealt with here. That's rambly, but hopefully that made sense to someone.
Okay, thank you for that suggestion, Amanda.
Through the chair, Chair, suggest that you ask the licensing officer whether or not they've sent the conditions to Mr. Inns, so that he can see and also comment as to whether or not that reassures any of his other concerns, and whether or not he's seen the representation made by the environmental protection, which is what they're
Yeah. Did you hear that, Suba?
Yeah, sorry, the environmental protection representations are within the report. So
yeah, so I'm just checking that Mr. Inns, I don't know if he's had access to the pack or whatever to see those. I don't know. That was him.
I don't think so, unless I had the hearing procedures and stuff. I didn't know that there was a pack that I would have seen.
Are you on the website, the council's website? It has different documents there that you need to click on.
Ah, wait, okay, yeah, sorry. Oh, I did.
Yeah. It's the representation by environmental health is
what you need is to know whether or not the representations that have been made both by the police now withdrawing their rep and the environmental protection team, whether or not you're happy now with what they're saying or not.
If I can answer that as just being a member of the public attending something they don't really understand how it occurs, I can say I don't really know where that document is, and I wouldn't know what I was looking for. I kind of expected there would be someone representing that, so I'm saying I have no idea what they said.
I can read it out.
If you want to read it to me, that's fine. Yeah, like
it's just in regards to the smoking situation.
Well, if it's to do with a smoking situation, no, we're on whether soundproofing is an issue, because that's like sort of
the soundproofing is a separate thing. You're right.
Yeah.
So you're asking for a condition on sound, essentially.
Yeah.
So
Because basically, at the end of this, I also, having watched the previous discussion, I know we're building up to saying, "Have your fears been allayed?" And rather than trying to cause problems, I'm trying to smooth towards saying my current main stickling point is an issue. You know, as I said, I have experience working in bars, and I've sort of we have live music at our venue. I know about how soundproofing and stuff works. I have experience in that. I don't have experience of reading through documents to do with that. So so all I can say is, if we're getting to the end of this saying, "Are you happy or are you not happy?" My happiness, one very clear, easy happiness, would be to say that the council official, or the sound official, the environmental health person whose duty is this to do this, they have an opinion, and they've expressed, they've looked at the building and said, yes, this is suitable for live music.
Okay, great.
Yep. Does that make
Thank you very much.
clear?
So I'm going to bring in Gareth now, and Amanda, and then Izzy. I'm going to come to you because you've been waiting patiently. Okay, Gareth.
Thank you, Chair. Just a point of clarification in terms of the papers. On Wednesday, the 8th of June at 10:09, I emailed all the persons that were joining the meeting this evening, and at the bottom of my email, I included the link to the papers on the website. So, just to clarify that.
Okay, thank you. And then Amanda?
Yes, I was going to say, Chair, I don't know if you want to ask then the applicant whether or not they did discuss soundproofing or how they were going to deal with that. I appreciate the environmental protection team are not here, but if they can clarify whether or not it's something that they are getting approved, or check that they're checking the procedures and soundproofing and everything is to the satisfaction of the environmental protection team. Thank you.
Okay, great. And Izzy?
Soundproof is very much something that we're in active discussions about in the venue, and we have two new members of the team that work specifically in sound, because we're building out our music studios, who are very knowledgeable on this. And I would say that we are in early stage discussions, but it is a key, and we would welcome any support with this, actually. So a member of the licensing team, or if anyone can point us to that could help us, we would be very open to that. I think one idea is, like you say, having foam on the back of the fire exit door. We'd be very open to trying that. But I just wanted to say that we're aware that this is a really important issue, and we're very willing to do what we can. Obviously, extensive sampling is good, so it would just be helpful for us to have any guidance in this area. We would really appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay, I'm sure the noise team could help you with that. I'd like to bring in Councillor Fajana Thomas now, just to sort of, we're kind of moving towards closing remarks, I think. Councillor Fajana Thomas, before I ask some questions, would you like to come back with observations?
Chair, ask your question, I'll come back. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I'd just like to know about, just in relation to how you've described yourself. I'll just read it very briefly. You know, a new creative arts centre in the heart of Hackney Wick. Mission is to create a place of belonging for many different types of people who seek to be creative, build new relationships, and experience the arts. We host a regular programme of art exhibitions, workshops, classes, and plan to start hosting occasional live music events. It's the live music events, folks, that seem to be worrying residents, in particular Laurie. So I'd just like to point that out. And then you go on to say, we are planning to build a small bar in our downstairs gallery, where we will serve a simple selection of wines, beers, and cocktails. We have two spaces, which will require the alcohol license: our downstairs street front gallery and our upstairs workshop. The capacity downstairs is 50, and the capacity upstairs is 100. So that's 150 if it was full, which is quite a lot of people. And then you go on to say that, you know, you won't be serving alcohol after 11. There's a bit of incongruence between the closing hours and the finishing sort of selling time, so that needs to be sorted out. Normally, after you finish serving drinks, you finish half an hour, you close half an hour later. It's the sort of normal thing. So so I've read that out, and you can hear that the concerns are about live music. But just give me an example of an evening that that you may have. Just a very quick example of the sort of thing that you might have that involves music.
Yeah, so I will also. Where did you get that actually? Because I feel like that is just completely out of date, and it might be on like our website or something, and
it's in the pack.
The original
right there.
application.
Okay, yeah. So we submitted it a while ago. We've completely changed too at this point too. So
Because
we're not going to have a bar anymore.
We have to consider kind of what is in front of us.
I got you.
Maybe we've hit on an interesting point here. So how has that changed? Would be the first question.
So we're not having a bar anymore. Alcohol is only going to be served as a supplement to events that are going on. So a standard. So then to just go to your event, a standard evening would be we rent out the space to a local artist who's going to be doing their first art show. We give it to them for super cheap so that they can do it for the first time. Would this be visual, like a visual art? Yeah, visual art, like painting. Yep, just paintings on the wall. We have some music playing. Maybe they have a friend playing music in the background that supports the artwork. People are coming. They are looking at the art. Everybody's congratulating, saying how nice it is that this person's doing their first show. We're selling wine to help recoup some of the the funds, because we're giving it out for next to nothing, which is great. I'm super happy to support it, but I can't fund a complete art event on my own, on my other salary. So we do that to try to bank back some of it. We're probably still losing money on the event. Most people are leaving by 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock. Alcohol's done, music is off. Everybody leaves after